Sexual Abuse Awareness, Yorktown High School. Today, the objectives of the lesson would be for you to understand the terms associated with the topics, understand the prevalence, know the risk factors, know how to minimize personal risk, recognize predatory behaviors, become aware of human trafficking, identify resources for reporting, and how to get help. Therefore, today we will define sexual abuse, share prevalence with statistical information, educate on risk factors and predatory behaviors, discuss human trafficking, and provide resources. What is child sexual abuse? First, we have to define a child. A child is anyone under 18 years of age. Child sexual abuse can be defined as an act in which an adult uses a child for sexual stimulation. Let's watch this brief video.
Look, I want to show you something. It's really cool. You could touch it, it's okay. Every incident is as if he got bolder and bolder until one day he was bold enough to take my virginity. Afterwards, it was as if nothing had happened. She kept asking me the same question over and over. Are you sure? Are you sure it wasn't a fantasy? Maybe you were dreaming. My mother was my only witness. She could have made up for all those years that I had lost. This is her time to stick up for me and to really fight for me, and she didn't. Me and my mother no longer have a relationship. That's why rain plays such a huge part in my life, because I get to share my story and I get to empower other people. So every time I talk about it, it's like chipping away at the stone of me healing. Start the conversation. Start talking.
Forms of child sexual abuse include engaging in sexual activities with a child, whether by asking or pressuring or by other means, indecent exposure of the genitals, child grooming, or using a child to produce pornography. Child sexual abuse isn't always easy to spot. The perpetrator could be someone you've known a long time or trust, which may make it even harder to notice. Consider the following warning signs: sudden development of phobias, sexual knowledge or behaviors incongruent with developmental age, changes in hygiene, refusal to bathe or excessive bathing, nightmares, self-injurious behavior. How often does it happen? Who are the perpetrators? What is the impact? From 2009 to 2013, Child Protective Services agencies substantiated or found strong evidence to indicate that 63,000 children a year were victims of sexual abuse. Every 8 minutes, Child Protective Services substantiates or finds evidence for a claim of child sexual abuse. 1 in 9 girls and 1 in 53 boys under the age of 18 experience sexual abuse or assault at the hands of an adult. 82% of all victims under 18 are female. Females ages 16 to 19 are 4 times more likely than the general population to be victims of rape, attempted rape, or sexual assault. Of all victims under 18, 2 out of 3 are ages 12 to 17. The effects of child sexual abuse can be long-lasting and affect the victim's mental health. Victims are more likely than non-victims to experience the following mental health challenges. They are about 4 times more likely to develop symptoms of drug abuse, about 3 times more likely to experience a major depressive episode as adults, about 4 times more likely to experience PTSD as adults. Risk factors and predatory behaviors. Out of the yearly 63,000 sexual abuse cases substantiated or found strong evidence by Child Protective Services, the perpetrator was most often the parent. 80% of perpetrators were a parent. 6% were other relatives. 5% were other, from siblings to strangers. 4% were unmarried partners of a parent. Out of the sexual abuse cases reported to CPS in 2013, 47,000 men and 5,000 women were the alleged perpetrators. In 88% of the sexual abuse claims that CPS substantiates or finds supporting evidence of, the perpetrator is male. In 9% of the cases, they are female, and 3% are unknown. Child victims often know their perpetrator. 93% are known to the victim. Of that 93%, 59% are considered acquaintances, and 34% are family members. Predatory behaviors. Two important predatory behaviors are luring and grooming. Luring is tempting someone to do something or go somewhere, usually by offering a reward. Grooming is befriending and establishing an emotional connection with a child, and sometimes the family, to lower the child's inhibitions with the objective of sexual abuse. How to minimize the risk. Understand that abusers often become friendly with potential victims and their families, enjoying family activities, earning trust, and gaining time alone with a potential victim. Knowledge is key. Understanding the definition behaviors that we've discussed already in this presentation. Eliminate or reduce one-on-one time. More than 80% of sexual abuse cases occur in isolated one-on-one situations. Choose group settings when possible. Monitor internet activity. Offenders use the internet to lure children into physical contact. Tell trusted adults. If something seems or feels off or not right, tell an adult. Human trafficking. Every year, children and youth are compelled into labor and sex trafficking in the United States and globally. The trauma experienced from trafficking can have a profound impact on the lives of youth, decreasing mental health, challenging self identity, and affecting personal development. Children are trafficked by caregivers, intimate partners, or others who use violence, threats, debt bondage, and other manipulative tactics to victimize children. Human trafficking involves the use of force, fraud, or coercion to obtain some type of labor or commercial sex act. Traffickers might use violence, manipulation, or false promises of well paying jobs or romantic relationships to lure victims into trafficking situations. They look for people who are susceptible for a variety of reasons, including psychological or emotional vulnerability, economic hardship, lack of a social safety net, natural disasters, or political instability. Identification. Many myths and misconceptions exist. Recognizing key indicators of human trafficking is the first step in identifying victims and can help save a life. Myth. Human trafficking does not occur in the United States, it only happens in other countries. Fact. Human trafficking exists in every country, including the United States. It exists nationwide, in cities, suburbs, and rural towns, and possibly in your own community. Myth. Human trafficking victims are only foreign born individuals and those who are poor. Fact. Human trafficking victims can be any age, race, gender, or nationality. They may come from any socioeconomic group. Myth. Human trafficking is only sex trafficking. Fact. Sex trafficking exists, but it is not the only type of human trafficking. Forced labor is another type of human trafficking. Both involve exploitation of people. Victims are found in legitimate and illegitimate labor industries, including sweatshops, massage parlors, agriculture, restaurants, hotels, and domestic service. Myth. Individuals must be forced or coerced into commercial sex acts to be victims of human trafficking. Fact. Under U.S. federal law, any minor under the age of 18 who is induced to perform commercial sex acts is a victim of human trafficking, regardless of whether he or she is forced or coerced. Myth. Human trafficking victims will attempt to seek help when in public. Fact. Human trafficking is often a hidden crime. Victims may be afraid to come forward and get help. They may be forced or coerced through threats or violence. They may fear retribution from traffickers, including danger to their families, and they may not be in possession of or have control of their identification documents. Possible indicators. It is important to note that not all indicators listed here are present in every human trafficking situation, and the presence or absence of any of the indicators is not necessarily proof of human trafficking. The safety of the public as well as the victim is paramount. Do not attempt to confront a suspected trafficker directly or alert a victim to any suspicions. It is up to law enforcement to investigate suspected cases of human trafficking. But possible indicators may include: has a child stopped attending school? Has the person had a sudden or dramatic change in behavior? Is a juvenile engaged in commercial sex acts? Is the person often in the company of someone to whom he or she defers, or someone who seems to be in control of the situation, as in where they go or who they talk to? A lot of possibly disturbing information has been shared. If any of this information has you questioning something you experience or witness in your own life, please utilize the following resources. If you or someone you know is being abused, call the Department of Child Services. We are all mandated reporters of abuse. That means we all have to report when we notice abuse. Child Services Hotline is 800 800 5556. Yorktown Police 759 7760. National Sexual Assault Hotline 800 656 4673. National Human Trafficking Hotline 888 373 7888, or text HELP or INFO to 233 733.